I'm Mike Belsito, host of Product Unplugged, where we dig into the good, the bad, sometimes the ugly of what it takes to build product. And a big thank you to the team at Pendo for making this series possible. Pendo is improving the world's experience with software, and they've been doing this for quite a while. And again, we thank the team at Pendo because this whole Product Unplugged series is being sponsored by them, and it is made possible by Pendo. But these conversations that I'm having with product leaders through this Product Unplugged series, it's been so much fun. It allows us to uncover the stories that are behind products that are getting built today. Some big products that we're all using. Some are new products that are coming up that we maybe even have never even heard of quite yet, or products that existed once upon a time, and we want to get into the conversations about what happened with those products. So lots of different avenues, lots of different angles that we've explored so far. I'm really excited for today's episode, and my guest today actually shares some things in common with me, so I'm especially excited to talk about that. But I'll get right to it and introduce our guest, and that's Ilai Szpiezak. And Ilai, it's so awesome to have you here with us for this.
Thank you, Mike, so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be able to talk with you and share a little bit of different stories and different learnings. So yeah, really excited for this chat.
Yeah, maybe to get things started, if you could give the quick elevator pitch on who you are and kind of what you're all about.
Yeah, for sure. So very quickly, I'm originally from Argentina, half Israeli, half Argentinian. I moved to London in 2011 by myself from a completely different industry. I ended up being in tech because I lost all my work throughout the pandemic. Hopefully, we can maybe dive deeper into that story later. But I literally had to pivot myself in the same way as you pivot a product. And I ended up falling in love with tech, falling in love with products, falling in love with product management and building what I call delightful experiences for millions of people. And I'm a 3 times founder. Right now, I'm the founder and the CEO of a company called Dolphin AI that is essentially building a voice of customer tool to centralize and analyze everything that customers say to be able to decipher what we should be building based on their feedback. So that's a quick elevator pitch.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that you and I talked about when we were catching up, even before we were recording, is that we share a lot in common, being founders in our past, being involved in events businesses, also having to reinvent ourselves throughout the pandemic. I know for me personally, putting on a product management conference that was happening right smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, that's an experience I don't want to have to go through before. You know this all too well. So maybe you could give people a little bit of a background on how you had to, again, just maybe our shared interest from the past and how you had to essentially reinvent yourself to get to where you are today.
Yeah, completely. So I spent about 15 years of my life within the events industry. I started actually as a dancer. Dance has always been my passion, which is fun enough how then I connected this to tech. But I was a dancer, and then I learned that there was an opportunity to create a business by giving event services to other people. And I'm talking about weddings, bar mitzvahs, birthdays, corporate events, tech conferences, hackathons, any type of events. I've done over 1,000 events in my life. And in parallel to that, I had a second company that was essentially doing that, but rather than as a service, as a self-production, we were acquiring theater rights and putting on theater shows. Very, very different. There are a lot of commonalities of what you do as a producer in the live entertainment and events industry and what you do as a product manager in tech. And everything was doing great. You can imagine, so many events, so many customers, and then the pandemic came, similar to what you said. And I had to think, okay, what do we do? There is no way for people to be together. So I will never forget the last event I've ever had was on the 15th of March, 2020. 2 weeks after, I found myself at home in lockdown in London. The whole world was in lockdown. And I ended up starting to stream dance classes through my small dance home studio in London. And that ended up being my first startup, where I built a opportunity for people from their homes to dance with me and other teachers to learn different hobbies. And the vision was to be able to just distance was not a matter anymore. It was just what you wanted to do, when you wanted to do it. So I reinvented myself without knowing how to code. I grew this platform that originally started on Facebook to being its own platform with subscription models, with different tiers, with people from 40 countries. We completely bootstrapped, grew the business organically, and it's the first time in my life I saw what many people call like PMF. And I don't know if there is like a real indication, but my indication at that time, which I never experienced after, and we are constantly searching for it as founders, but in that point, I genuinely found it. It was very clear when every week I had, and I will never forget these numbers, between 7% and 12% growth of people that were putting their credit card and subscribing to this dance platform of me dancing from my home to all the world. It was crazy, crazy.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. That, PMF, product market fit, everybody has their own journey to finding product market fit. And this is true whether you're an entrepreneur or a product manager working on working at a company that's been around for a while, but you're introducing a new product. You have to find product market fit for that new product. And I
Again,
always joke, it's like you don't it's not like there's an iPhone app that all of a sudden you get a notification that says, "Congratulations, you found product market fit." We all have to define it ourselves. And so it's great that, I guess, let me ask you on that. Did you have that as a goal for product market fit? Were you saying, "Hey, we need to hit this metric in order to achieve," or one of these things that's like, once you started seeing that you were achieving this, there was a realization, "Oh, this is product market fit."
yeah, it was the second one. I also was new to the tech industry. It was beginning of 2020. Again, 15th of
Yeah.
March, beginning of April, I started this platform, and essentially I had the big Paul Graham, which is one of the founders of Y Combinator, essay in my head that said, 7% weekly is what you should aim for, at least from a growth perspective. But actually, that means what does what does it mean when you're just starting something new? So I think I realized once you start to see that everything that you're doing is not enough because of how many people are coming into your door, and whether you're giving dance classes, you're having an events industry business, or you are actually building a tool that people are using on a daily or monthly, usage, whatever you're tracking. I think it was really realizing that whatever I was doing was always catching up with what I felt from the outside. That catching up felt like, oh my God, there's something interesting. It was like it was like a meme. Like I wasn't searching to be the cleverest. I have everything ready and I know when this is ready. It was more like I'll do the simplest thing that I think is right and let's see what happens. And it was throughout doing those simple things that I felt there was something great. And I also noticed when it was not great as soon as the pandemic finished. So that was a really clear also, the other side of the coin.
Yeah, no, and it's a great reminder too, because sometimes we get so caught up in needing to know, oh, there's 100 metrics that we're tracking, all the levers we're trying to. But in this case, you were new to tech, really in terms of being an entrepreneur, and just being able to focus on like the core important things. It seems like what are the core levers that we're really after? It seems like in those early pre product market fit days, you don't need to be tracking 100 things. It's like identifying what are the core one or two or three things and just honing in on that. Do you agree, or what's your take on that?
I completely agree. And I think that I've spoken with over 600 product teams in the last year because of what I'm building. And I realize a lot of people get carried away of the theory of being a product manager and building products. Forget product management as an industry, like building products. And we have all these beautiful dashboards and, like metrics and everything that we can do because that's the beauty of tech. Data is gold, so we can have this data, but it's actually not moving the needle, at least not in the very beginning. Where in the very beginning, the only thing that matters is building something that delights a small set of users, and that's what I experienced with Harkalab, which was the name of that platform in the very beginning. I had a small set of users that were located in random cities of the US, not in mega centers. No, no, it was in New York, and I got to those after. These people every day. 5 times a week were coming to the platform, were paying their subscription and telling their friends. That's the only thing that matters. Building something that was as delightful as possible for them. And I believe this is for anyone. And doing that super unscalable. I'm a big believer of doing things that don't scale. By the way, I know that it's a bit like cringe in the industry, but I am a big believer because you can't replace that personal relationship I can provide to someone, even today while I'm building my startup now. And I think that is a superpower that sometimes we forget because we get carried away by the sexy stuff that is building a startup, which is all these numbers and metrics and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, doing things that don't scale, sometimes you have to do that, especially if you're staying focused on the customer. I love companies that are customer obsessed because that's, I any company that I'm a part of, like that customer is the reason you exist. And if we're
They
only
pay the
focused on the
salaries.
numbers, right, exactly. And like that's the thing is to be customer obsessed. Yeah, we want to pay attention to metrics and such, but sometimes you're doing things for customers that can't possibly scale, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'd encourage that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious the transition from so you bootstrap this business throughout the pandemic, and yeah, there's challenges with it, but like you birthed it, you made it happen, and you saw that initial success with it. Then fast forwarding to today, Dolphin's a much different company. I guess maybe you could talk about the transition to where you got to where you are today and what problems or pain points, I guess, did you uncover to even bring to life a company like Dolphin? Maybe we could transition to that part of your story.
Yes. So there is this interim journey, or like bridge in between building this platform that it was basically a subscription model to building a SaaS tool, which I'm building right now. And the interim was two chapters. The first one was building a marketplace on top of that platform originally, and I learned a lot about how and what does it mean to move from a subscription business into messing up with an ecosystem, which is building a marketplace. And a lot of the things that change in terms of how you build the product, your business model changes, the way that you're monetizing it or not monetizing it, the way that you acquire new customers, which is your customer, etc. So many questions. And from that moment, I realized that marketplaces are hard and I love hard things. That's one of the things that motivates me to be a founder, but it's very, very hard to build a marketplace. I ended up going through an incubator program called Antler that has cohorts all around the world, and they are essentially matching founders with founders. And I ended up meeting my co-founder called Charlie right now, and Charlie is my co-founder and CTO of Dolphin. And the year after Antler, we co-founded Dolphin. That it started from a pain I had while building the marketplace. The pain I had was I was trying to make sense of all this customer feedback that I was talking with potential customers. In that case, it was like supply and demand. So I had teachers and I had people wanting to take classes from all the world, and it just became very, very difficult to understand. Hopefully, it's not because I was not able to do it, but because actually understanding people is very complicated. People are complex, and starting a startup, as you know, is very complex. So the first idea, and this is quite strange, was to build a layer on top of your website that could allow you to share a bug report with someone with a click. That was the original idea. It was not customer feedback and look at all this big bubble of stuff. It was just like, I am finding this bug. I want to share with my co-founder and tell them, hey, this doesn't work, and not have to do anything else. Not reproduction steps and screen recording. No. By the way, I started to do some digging, and there were amazing products out there doing exactly this. And I started to use these products, and they solved my problem. So I didn't feel I had to build a new product there. But what I kept hearing while I was interviewing other people is the same issue I had, which is managing customer feedback is really hard because I hear stuff from support tickets, and I hear stuff in my surveys, and I hear stuff in my calls, and it becomes really difficult to make sense. That's essentially the hypothesis that we took to make Dolphin happen.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And catch us up to where you are now. I guess from the process of, having that initial inkling of, seeing these problems that existed and now where Dolphin exists. I guess what has the process looked like to evolve it? It sounds like customer feedback is a big part of that, which is funny because it's like your whole product is about customer feedback, but can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so I basically we did one thing and one thing only. My co-founder is a genius developer and engineer, and he's dedicated fully to build the product. And I've been dedicated fully to just talk to people. And I know it sounds again quite funny, but it's been that over and over again, and really trying to really care about the way people are describing their things to you, not just what they are saying, but the way they are saying it. And literally is me going, having a call, bringing that back, bringing it to Charlie, coding, comparing that to others. So it's essentially right now doing the same that we are building for other companies, but manually, so that we can then scale that through a product. So I'm doing the same that hopefully we can help others too.
Yeah. I know firsthand when you're building a company from scratch, especially a product oriented company. I said before, there's the good, bad, and ugly of building products. Sometimes there's the bad and the ugly, right? In the beginning stages, right? Like you have those oh no moments where maybe it's, oh, we had this big hypothesis and we've invalidated that, which actually invalidating sometimes is just as beautiful as validating, but sometimes it's hard. What were those oh no moments that you've experienced? Whether now with Dolphin, just because again you're in the midst of it now, or are there very clear oh no moments that come back to you from your previous endeavors? I guess either one is fine, but really curious about that because I know people are always interested in how people persevered through those moments.
So I'll bring two thoughts. The first one is quite fresh in my mind, and it is connected to Dolphin. So originally, we thought that every source of feedback, whether it's a survey, whether it's a review in a site, or whether it's a call from a customer success manager that brings data, everything would be the same. We would build an algorithm, plug it in, and we got great insights, have this big black box and it's like, boom, you put X, you get Y, and it's amazing. And it doesn't work. It's not like that. It's just the reality. So for every team out there, every company trying to build something like this internally, good luck. It's really hard. It doesn't just plug and play. And we realize that companies actually have their own way of calling things, their own way that they want to digest their own data. It's not just that give me insights. What an insight means to one person, it doesn't mean is the same for another person. And having enough customization versus you do what I tell you to do with my product, it is something that was like a wow moment for us. How much we should let people customize what they want to see versus how much we just give them what we find from the data. Insights is a very open-ended word in a way. So one of the realizations is we need to learn from a product perspective what people really want to define themselves and what they don't want. So actually we've shifted our whole product strategy to letting people track the areas that they care, call the things that they care about, so that Dolphin better understands and better provides those insights that maybe a product team working on activation cares about, the retention. But maybe the finance team only cares about hearing things that relate with pricing and billing. So everybody cares about something else, and we are moving to being a proactive partner, like call it like that, in this journey of understanding customers. That's one. On the other is the realization that the business model of a SaaS subscription company is so much more straightforward than building a two-sided marketplace. I don't even want to get there. Two-sided marketplace where you are constantly having to add value to two sides that by default have different incentives. So this was a really big learning for me.
Yeah, I can speak to that one personally too. I had a company way back when totally different market, not within dance. It was in online funeral planning, but it was a double-sided marketplace with funeral homes and families that are planning funerals. And it's like you're building two different companies. You know, you have two different
Completely.
go-to-market plans. You have to find product market fit in two different ways. So yeah, those double-sided or triple-sided, I don't even want to think about. But yeah, those double-sided marketplaces are hard.
Complete. Something on that that I think one of the things I really learn about that it really help us is to always think of what is the hard side. There are some great books about it, and
Yeah.
like there's always a side that will push the other one, even though they are
Yeah.
both needing to
Yes.
coexist. But thinking about which one is the one that has the power law, and starting with that one first.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. Yeah. Somebody kind of gave me the advice of like, hey, look at both sides and ask yourself, if you solve this side, do you have a business? And if sometimes you could say, no, actually, right? Like if everything went well and we solved the side, we still need the other piece. And then in other cases, it's like if you solve the side, you have a business. Well, yeah, if we solve this side, the other side just comes because, it's like this is where the demand is. So everything would come because we have the demand built up right here. And that's the area to focus on. And it sounds very simple. When you're running a business like that, it takes a long time to be able to, even if somebody tell you that and you're working within it, it takes a really long time to be able to feel that. And you could
You
probably
just
relate.
remember me, yeah, and you just gave me another realization of this aha moments from a company perspective, not from a customer perspective, which is connected to Dolphin. That we had a great pull from customers using specific sources of feedback, but we need to keep building uh, those engines for different sources constantly, because the moment that you tell me, hey, I have my feedback in a new help desk tool, it's like, wait, now whatever I have doesn't fit, I need to build a new integration. So it's really interesting how building a software company is much more than just getting it right for one. However, getting it right for one use case can potentially unlock all the others, going back to the marketplace or the SaaS. So again, small thoughts that come to my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I have a couple questions left for you. And this one, it's just based off of your unique background. And again, being somebody that's put on many conferences as well, although I know you've been involved with way more events than I've been involved with in my past. But I'm curious if your experience running events correlates to product management, or what it takes to build products. Like, did you see that correlation, and what analogs might you draw in?
Such a great question. I'm all the time thinking about there should be a book that talks about the similarities of the event and entertainment industry with building products. And so the first thing that comes to my mind with that question is, when you are an event producer, when you're putting on a conference, when you're putting on an event, you're actually not you're responsible for the event, but you might not necessarily be doing the tasks that put the event together. This is
Mm-hmm.
an interesting thing, because you might not be bringing the speakers, you might not be curating the lights of the stage, you might not be working on the schedule of the operations of putting on anything that comes in, but you are responsible for delivering something cohesive that everybody is working towards the same goal and that talks towards what a customer wants, that in that case are participants or guests, around the theme. So there are a lot of different parts and a lot of different specialities around, and you are the central person that need to connect all of this together and make sure that everybody knows why they are doing it. Is very similar to what we do from a product management perspective, where you might not be the one that is coding or designing or going out there to talk to customers, though more product managers should talk to customers. But you are in charge of being that glue that reminds everyone and understands why we are doing what we are doing, bringing all of these different personas closer to the goal and making sure the goal works for someone. Otherwise, there's no product. So the product equals, say, conference, and each these different departments equals the design team, the engineering team, your analytics team, etc. So I think the marketing team. So you are in the center of all of these, and we need to make sure that all of these personas come towards the same goal.
Yeah, I am right there with you. It's you think about it in both cases, it's stakeholder management, right? Sometimes the biggest challenges that we deal with as product people, if you really think about it, yeah, sometimes they're technical, but many, many times, maybe even most of the time, it's people related. It's the stakeholders that we're managing, whether it's the customers, conference attendees, or whether it's other people involved in the process, designers, event producers, right? Like just like you laid out, they're all people, and every one of those groups has their own different motivations, and we have to do our jobs as product people to kind of corral everything and make sure we're headed in the right direction, right? So I love that. I love painting the picture like that.
Completely.
Well,
I
I'll
agree.
ask you this, because sometimes this will be my final question, because time's kind of flown by here, and sometimes it's that last thing that we hear that really sticks with us. So as you've told your story here, as you've navigated from those early event days to now your role at Dolphin and building that company up, what's one big takeaway that you hope people can get out of sitting on this conversation with us here today?
I think it comes to the same thing I try to do, whether it was building an event business or today building a SaaS tool that, like thousands of analyzing hundreds of thousands of conversations per year. I remember, by the way, last year we analyzed 39 million words. I will always remember this. It's crazy. I think it's trying to be close to the customer. And I think for product people out there, or not product people out there, I heard once one of the founders of Wix saying, as companies grow, people inside the company become further and further away from the customer. And our job as founders or product managers or whoever is leading that is to bring this gap and make it closer. Because if we can be closer to the customer, whether it's a conference attendee or it's a company paying for a SaaS tool, it goes back to why we are building what we're building, which hopefully will better help us do a good job to solve the problems. So really staying close to the customer, I hope that more people in product can do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Ilya, for people that want to keep tabs on your work and Dolphin, like what's the best way for people to keep tabs on everything?
The best way is I'm quite active on LinkedIn. It's my name and surname, Ilai Szpiezak, and then Dolphin is getdolphin.ai. You can also find it online or on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk with more folks out there, whether it's through Dolphin or about my past weird journey into tech. Super excited about what's next to come. And yeah, we're here building hopefully the next generation voice of customer tool. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you for being a part of this. I had a lot of fun chatting with you, and thank you everybody for tuning in and being here with us. I also want to thank the team at Pendo for making this possible. Again, they're on a mission to improve the world's experience with software, and they've helped us make this series possible. So big thank you goes out to them. But yeah, as for everybody else tuning in, we have plenty more interviews coming up. So I will see you at the next episode.